The moment everything fell apart still plays in my mind like a broken record. I had no idea that one conversation would change everything. It was a regular evening, nothing special. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the kind of moment where you expect a casual chat about the day. But then, it happened. He looked at me, almost as if he had been holding something back for a long time. And then, out of nowhere, he said it. "You've lost your looks," he told me. "You're not the woman I married anymore." It felt like the ground shifted beneath me. I couldn't breathe. What was he talking about? I mean, sure, I wasn't the same person I was when we first met. Life had happened. We had kids, dealt with challenges, and faced hardships together. But I never thought he would reduce me to just my appearance. Imagine giving years of your life to someone, sacrificing, loving, supporting, and building a future together. Then one day, they look at you and tell you that you're no longer good enough because you don't look the way you did when you were younger. It felt like all the love, effort, and care I had put into our marriage didn't matter at all. The things that had once connected us, our shared history, the laughter, the memories, suddenly felt irrelevant. I asked him what he meant, hoping there was more to it, some deeper explanation. But no, he just kept repeating that I had changed, that I had let myself go, that I wasn't the young, beautiful woman he had fallen in love with anymore. It was like a slap in the face, a reminder that no matter how much you love someone, it can all be reduced to how you look on the outside. It's strange, but I had always thought he loved me for more than just my appearance. Over the years, I had put so much effort into being there for him. When he lost his job, I picked up the slack. I worked hard, held our family together, and did everything I could to make sure he felt supported. I cooked, I cleaned, I took care for our children, and yet it still wasn't enough. Because apparently, none of that mattered if I didn't look the way he wanted me to. That conversation hit me harder than I could have imagined. I thought I was prepared for anything in our marriage, but this was a punch to the gut. It made me question everything about myself, my worth, and our relationship. Was I just a pretty face to him? Did I mean anything more than that? What hurt the most was realizing that all my efforts, all the love and care I gave him, had been meaningless. In the end, it came down to my looks. And when I couldn't live up to that standard anymore, I was disposable. That was the moment I realized the truth. Our marriage wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't built on mutual respect or love. It was built on a fragile foundation, one that could crumble the minute I didn't meet his expectations. Our relationship started like something out of a dream. We met in our 20s, both fresh, full of life, and so incredibly in love. I remember the way he used to look at me, the way he made me feel special every single day. He'd tell me I was beautiful, without fail, and I'd believe it wholeheartedly. I never questioned it. Back then, I truly thought we were going to grow old together, that we would always be by each other's side, supporting each other and living out all the dreams we shared. There was something so comforting about that belief. We had big plans, traveling the world, buying a house, maybe even starting a family. It felt like we were invincible, like nothing could break the bond we had. I was so in love with him, and I thought he felt the same way about me. I thought we had something special that would last forever. But as time went on, things began to change. It wasn't an overnight shift, more like a slow drift I didn't even notice at first. He started getting busier at work. I didn't think much of it at first. Work can be demanding, right? I understood. But it felt like every time he was home, his attention wasn't really on me anymore. He'd be distracted, his mind always somewhere else. And then there were the little things, like when we'd go out together and I'd catch him looking at other women. Not just a casual glance, but staring. It was more than just a fleeting look. He'd linger, even when I was right there beside him. That's when I started to feel something shift in me. I felt invisible. I'd be standing right next to him, and yet he wasn't seeing me. I was no longer the woman who captivated his attention. I started questioning myself. What had changed? Had I changed? Maybe I was just being paranoid, but it was hard to ignore. I could feel the distance growing between us, and it hurt more than I ever expected it to. He never said anything about it. If I ever brought it up, he'd brush it off, telling me I was being insecure or imagining things. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The way he looked at other women made me question what I meant to him. Was I still the woman he loved? Or had I become just another person in his life, and he no longer appreciated the way he used to? I wanted to believe things would go back to how they were when we first met. I wanted to believe that love could conquer anything, that we could go back to being that couple who were so completely in tune with one another. But the truth was, the longer things went on, the more I felt like I was losing him, little by little. And what was worse, I didn't know how to get him back. Over the years, things slowly started to change in ways I didn't expect. After we had kids, my body went through the usual transformations. I didn't have the time I used to have to hit the gym or keep up with all the little things I once did to maintain my appearance. Between the constant needs of the kids, work, and managing the house, I felt like I was always running on empty. It wasn't that I didn't care about how I looked, but my priorities shifted. There just wasn't enough time in the day to be the woman I used to be. But I never imagined it would become a problem. I thought he loved me for who I was, for the person I was becoming as a mother, a partner, and someone managing the daily chaos of life. I thought that was enough. I honestly believe that love went deeper than physical appearances, especially after we had kids and started building our life together. Yet the longer time went on, the more I began to notice subtle shifts in how he treated me. At first, it started with small things, comments about my clothes, my hair, the way I looked after the kids. It wasn't harsh at first, just little jabs here and there. Don't you think you should dress up more? That's what's attractive. Or when he'd suggest, you used to put more effort into your hair. The comments were almost like he was trying to make me feel guilty for not living up to some standard of beauty that didn't seem to fit my reality anymore. But I'd brush it off, thinking maybe it was just him being picky. Everyone has their moments, right? But then it kept happening. More often than not, I'd hear things about how I didn't look as good as I used to. He'd talk about how I didn't take care of myself, like I did when we were first married. It started to get to me. Slowly, that nagging feeling crept in that maybe I wasn't enough anymore. Maybe the version of me who had given everything, my time, my energy, my love, just wasn't good enough for him anymore. It was hard to ignore those comments, and it started eating away at my confidence. What hurt the most was that no matter how hard I tried to stay on top of things, it didn't seem like it mattered. I was juggling everything, raising kids, keeping a home, maintaining a career, and still trying to keep some semblance of a personal life. But he wasn't seeing any of that. Instead, all he could see were my flaws, my imperfections. The worst part was the way it made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Not as a mother, not as a wife, not as a woman. I had sacrificed so much of myself for this family, but somehow it was never enough. The more I gave, the less I seemed to be appreciated, and the more I started to question if he still saw me the way he used to. The downward spiral wasn't just about the way I looked. It was the way I started feeling invisible in my own life. The woman who once felt adored and cherished now felt like she was being replaced. Not by another person, but by an ideal that I could never quite live up to. And no matter how much I tried, the harder I worked, the less it seemed to matter. One day, out of nowhere, he dropped the bombshell. I'll never forget the moment. We were sitting in the living room, and he looked at me with that serious expression, the one that always made my stomach drop. Then, with no warning, he told me he was leaving. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I had heard him talk about frustrations before, but never like this. He said he couldn't stay with me anymore because I had lost my looks. Those words hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know how to react. I was stunned. After everything we had been through, after the kids, the sacrifices, the love, and the years of trying to make it work, he was telling me that my value was all wrapped up in my appearance. That's what he saw as the deal breaker. It was like a slap in the face. All those years I had spent pouring myself into this marriage, into our family, into making sure we had a life together. And now he was telling me that it all boiled down to how I looked. All of a sudden, all the things I had done, the sleepless nights with the kids, the constant juggling of work and home, the endless compromises, meant nothing. My appearance was the only thing that mattered to him now. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And then, as if to rub salt in the wound, he said I should focus on getting back to the woman I once was. Like it was that simple. Like I didn't have 100 other things to think about. Like I wasn't already overwhelmed by life itself. I couldn't believe the audacity of it. Was he saying that I should just drop everything and fix myself? Just for him? Did he not see the weight of everything I was carrying every day? I didn't know what to say at that moment. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell him how unfair it was, but another part of me just felt exhausted. How had it all come to this? I sat there, trying to find the words, but they weren't coming. He had already made up his mind. And what's worse, I felt like he didn't even care to understand what I was going through. I had given him my best, my love, my time, and my energy, and it wasn't enough. The woman I once was, who I thought he loved, had faded into something he could no longer see. It was heartbreaking, and it made me question everything. How could the man who promised to love me, support me, and grow old with me just throw it all away because I didn't look like the version of myself from years ago? That was the moment when everything fell apart. It wasn't just about my looks. It was about the way he viewed me, the way he treated me as if I were disposable. And honestly, I wasn't sure I could ever forgive him for that. I knew something was off. Deep down, I could feel it, even if I didn't have the full picture. He had started to pull away, becoming distant. And it wasn't just the usual stress from work or life in general. No, this felt different. At first, I brushed it off. People get busy, right? But then, I caught him. I caught him texting other women. The messages weren't innocent either. They were flirtatious, personal, and completely out of line. The sting of that moment hit me harder than anything I'd ever experienced before. But that wasn't the only thing. He began working longer hours, spending more time away from home. I didn't know where he was going or what he was doing, but it didn't feel like he was just working. He'd come home late, tired, and barely speak to me. It was like I was a stranger in my own house. I would try to talk to him, try to connect, but all he would do was mumble something about being exhausted and head straight to bed. It felt like I was losing him, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. I wanted to ask him what was going on, but a part of me was scared. What if I found out the truth? What if everything I feared was real? I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. The late nights, the coldness, the texts. It all pointed to one thing, even if I didn't want to admit it. The man I had married, the man I thought was mine, was slipping away. And worse, he was slipping into someone else's arms. The heartbreak of it all was overwhelming. To think that someone I trusted, someone I built a life with, could be capable of betraying me like this, shattered me. It was like a piece of my soul was breaking with every passing day. The hardest part? I never imagined it would happen to me. I always thought we were solid. We had been through so much together, or so I thought. I never thought I'd be the one left behind, the one who would get replaced. It's funny how life has a way of throwing the hardest lessons at you when you least expect it. Cheating, betrayal, being replaced by someone younger. It sounds like something that happens to someone else, right? But there I was, living it. Things like this can happen to anyone, and that's what made it so painful. The realization that no matter how much you love someone, no matter how much you give, it can all be taken away in the blink of an eye. I didn't see it coming, and it hurt in ways I never knew were possible. I guess that's the danger of loving someone so completely, you trust them without question. But eventually, the truth comes out, and no matter how much you wish it wasn't real, you can't unsee it. The heartbreak was the worst part, the feeling of being replaced, of being left for someone who wasn't me. It was a kind of loss I couldn't prepare for, and it still stings every day. The day he walked out was the day everything changed. It wasn't some dramatic argument or a big fight. No, it was much worse. He just left. Like it was that easy for him. One minute we were talking, and the next, he was gathering his things, telling me it was over. No tears, no fight, just a flat, unemotional goodbye. I was in shock. I didn't even have a chance to process it. He left without looking back, without giving me any explanation other than that I wasn't the woman he married anymore. But what tore me apart wasn't the fact that he left. It wasn't even the way he left. What crushed me the most was why. He told me I wasn't attractive enough anymore. That was it. All the love I had given him, all the years I had dedicated to being his wife and the mother of his children, meant nothing in the end. The reason he was walking out of my life wasn't because I was a bad person. No, it was because my looks had changed. I thought I was doing everything right. I was a good wife, loving, supportive, and patient. I was a good mother, doing my best to raise our kids and make a home for us. I gave him everything I had, every bit of my love and energy. But none of that seemed to matter when he said I wasn't attractive to him anymore. It felt like everything I had done, everything I had given, had been worthless. I had worked so hard to make things work, to be everything he needed, but in the end, none of it was enough. It was like a punch to the gut. All the effort, all the years of loving him, came down to one simple thing: my appearance. It felt like I had been reduced to nothing more than my looks, like my worth was tied to how I looked in his eyes. And when that changed, so did he. I wasn't good enough for him anymore, not because of who I was as a person, but because I didn't meet some physical standard that he expected. It didn't matter that I was still the same person, funny, caring, supportive. None of that mattered. It was devastating. It made me question everything. Had all the love I had given him been just a facade? Had he only loved me for my looks and nothing more? It felt like all my efforts had been meaningless. I had given him my heart, my soul, and my time, but in the end, it wasn't enough. He walked out, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my broken heart, feeling like I wasn't worthy of love anymore. That was the breaking point for me. It wasn't just losing him, I was losing myself in the process. The moment he walked out, I realized something I had been avoiding for years. I needed to start living for myself. Up until that point, I had put everyone else's needs before my own, especially his. But when he left, it was clear that I had been giving so much of myself away that I barely recognized who I was anymore. I had lost touch with the woman I once was, the woman I loved, the woman who deserved more than just to be someone's wife or mother. I knew I had to make a change. It wasn't about getting him back. That ship had sailed. This was about finding myself again, rediscovering my worth, and putting myself first for the first time in years. The first step was simple, but it was one I'd been putting off forever: taking care of me. I started researching makeovers. I wasn't looking for a magic fix, just a way to feel good about myself again, to feel like I could look in the mirror and see the woman I used to be, confident, strong, and beautiful, inside and out. I booked an appointment at a salon, and let me tell you, it was life-changing. I went in for a full hair transformation, new cut, fresh color, everything. As soon as I saw myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. She looked different, yes, but in a way that made me feel like I was finally coming back to life. The woman in that mirror was capable, strong, and ready to face whatever came next. I felt like I had taken my first step toward reclaiming my confidence. But it didn't stop there. I knew I needed more than just a new look. I needed to get stronger, to feel physically good again. I hired a personal trainer. Honestly, it was tough at first. My body wasn't what it used to be, and it felt like a struggle just to get through the first few workouts. But as I pushed through, I started to notice the changes. I felt stronger, healthier, and for the first time in a long while, I felt confident in my skin. The workouts weren't just about changing my body, They were about changing my mindset. Every drop of sweat, every aching muscle reminded me that I was capable of more than I ever thought. I was taking control of my life, and it felt incredible. The best part, I wasn't doing it for him anymore. I wasn't trying to fit into some standard or get approval from someone who had left me behind. This journey was for me. I was doing this because I deserved to feel good about myself. After all, I deserved to reclaim my life and my happiness. And slowly but surely, I started to see the changes. Not just on the outside, but on the inside too. I was becoming the woman I had always been, but stronger, more confident, and more empowered than ever before. The best part was realizing that I didn't need anyone's validation to feel whole. I just needed to believe in myself. Just when I had finally started feeling like myself again, stronger, more confident, genuinely happy, he came back. After a few months, out of the blue, there was a message on my phone, then another. He wanted to talk, said he'd been thinking about me a lot, said he realized he'd made a huge mistake, that walking away from our marriage was the worst decision of his life. For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. This was the same man who once told me I wasn't attractive enough to be with anymore. The same man who looked me in the eye and said, "You're not the woman I married." And now, here he was, crawling back with apologies and regret, acting like none of that ever happened. I could have laughed if it wasn't so pathetic. He claimed he missed me, that he didn't realize how much he had until it was gone. But the truth is, he didn't miss me. He missed the version of me that he thought he could control. The one who stayed quiet, who gave everything and asked for nothing in return. That woman. She was gone. Because of this makeover I went through, it wasn't just about new hair or toned muscles. It was about finally realizing my worth. Understanding that I was never the problem. That his shallow standards and emotional neglect had nothing to do with my appearance and everything to do with his insecurity. So, no, I didn't go back. I didn't respond to his messages. He walked out thinking I'd fall apart. Instead, I rebuilt myself. And I didn't leave space for someone who once made me feel like I wasn't enough. That was the real transformation, not just on the outside, but in my heart and mind. I wasn't his anymore. I was mine. Losing yourself in a relationship doesn't happen all at once. It's not like you wake up one day and suddenly don't recognize who you are. It's more like a slow fade. You start putting someone else's needs before your own. You stop doing the little things that once made you feel happy and confident. And before you know it, you're looking in the mirror and wondering where that version of you went. The one who used to smile for no reason, who felt beautiful just being herself. That's what happened to me. I thought I was doing everything right. I loved him. I took care of our home, our children, and our life together. I gave everything I had because I believed that's what a good partner does. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to keep something for myself. And he didn't just take me for granted. He walked away and blamed me for not looking like the woman I was in my 20s. As if age, motherhood, and real life aren't supposed to change you. When he told me he was leaving because I'd lost my looks, it broke something in me. Not because I believed him, but because I realized how little he truly saw me. After years of being by his side, my worth to him had been reduced to my appearance. That was the most painful part, not the divorce, not the betrayal, but the idea that I had become invisible to someone I gave so much to. But here's the thing. His shallow view of me didn't have to define me. I could have stayed in that dark place, believing I wasn't good enough anymore, but I didn't. I chose to stand back up. I chose to find the woman I had forgotten. And yes, I got a makeover. I changed my hair. I got stronger. I started paying attention to my own needs again. But the real transformation wasn't on the outside. The real change happened inside me. I started speaking to myself kindly again. I stopped blaming myself for someone else's lack of love. I realized that love, real love, isn't about perfection or appearances. It's about presence, respect, support, and kindness. And if someone can't love you through all the seasons of your life, they never really loved you to begin with. This experience taught me something I wish every woman could learn earlier. You are not defined by the way you look. You are not a reflection of someone else's judgment. You are no less worthy because your body has changed or your face has aged. You are enough, just as you are. So if you've ever felt like you're disappearing in your relationship, or like you're no longer seen for the person you are inside, I want you to hear this. You can come back to yourself. You can reclaim your confidence, your joy, your sense of worth, and you don't have to wait for anyone's approval to do it. I didn't get that makeover to win him back. I did it to win me back. And I did.